From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The fight to take back one rural town.
I think we'll come back stronger and better.
Hear from some people trying to do just that in East Palestine, Ohio, a town hit hard by a train derailment. Cash cattle trade hit some records. We'll have a look at prices and what farmers need to do about finances right now as interest rates continue to rise.
It's going to be somewhat of a challenging time.
It's right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Michelle Rook. Clinton is on vacation. Farmers are moving through higher interest rates as they move into the spring planting season. However, the price to borrow money for rent or inputs to plant the new crop will cost farmers more this year. Nathan Kaufman with the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City is saying very few new loans have a rate of less than 6%, as you can see on this graphic. The rising rates and recent bank collapse also mean credit tightening as farmers finalize or renew operating or loans for capital purchases. Community banks, which provide about 80% of all ag lending, have seen outflows plus a tightening of credit. The same is true of regional lenders that serve agriculture.
There will be more restrictive lending in the foreseeable future and opine that they don't see rates coming down anytime soon. So in addition to rate elevation, credit standards will be such that there'll be less credit extended to support operations. So it's going to be somewhat of a challenging time.
Mason says the higher interest rates are getting very expensive for farmers securing operating loans for spring planting, especially for those that principally rent land. And he says those rates won't cool for a while.
If you don't have your production loans, I wouldn't delay. I would go ahead and get those done as promptly as you can. I would expect rates to move up on the margin a bit more from where they sit today, and they're high to begin with.
Farmer Mac also says the higher interest rates have led to a slowdown in land purchases, plus refinances on equipment are down 40%. Last week was a busy one weather-wise across the country between powerful storms and heavy snow. So what can we expect this week? Meteorologist Andrew Whitmire joins us with the latest.
Just check out this map behind me. Lots of reds, which means spring is on the menu for much of the country here just after the Easter holiday weekend. For much of the lower 48, really the only cool locations where we're expecting some below average high temperatures is across the Pacific Northwest, where they are in the midst of their rainy season. Check out the precipitation this week. Finally looking at drier conditions for parts of the deep South Tennessee and Ohio River valleys, which have been inundated with heavy pockets of moisture. And as we carry on over those temperatures to next week, well, we're still going to be looking at almost the exact same. Lots of above average temperatures here for the eastern half of the United States. We are going to have to watch, though, the northern prairie, parts of the Dakotas, upper portions of the Midwest for some active precipitation for next week. That could lead to flooding concerns as they again continue to melt their snowpack. What we're looking at for this Monday, April 10th, is a dominant high pressure system across the East Coast, and that's again going to all those mild temperatures to stick around for much of the Great Lakes and Midwestern and East Coast states here. And that high pressure looks to linger throughout much of this week. And check this out. This was taken at the Snowbird Ski Resort in Utah. The resort experiencing an all-time snowfall record of 785 inches for this season. The snow up to the second level of one of the resort's buildings. Quite amazing. All more to your AgDay forecast in just a few.
Thanks, Andrew. An unprecedented series of powerful storms have replenished most of California's reservoirs, dumping record amounts of rain and snow, busting a severe 3-year drought. In fact, some reservoirs are so full that water is being released to make room for storm runoff and snowmelt that could cause flooding this spring and summer. 12 of California's 17 major reservoirs are now above their historical averages. It follows 3 years of drought that drained them to dangerously low levels. It's a stunning turnaround of water availability in the nation's most populous state. Late last year, nearly all of California was in drought. The latest drought monitor now puts that number at just about 25%, with only a few areas seeing severe drought. Cash cattle trade hit some record levels last week in northern feeding areas. Before the dust settled, live sale prices ranged from 170 to 178 live, with dress prices 272 to 284. On a weighted average, these prices could actually top the record highs in late 2014, early 2015. Meanwhile, the southern deals ranged 168 to 172. Old crop soybeans were under pressure to end last week, with fresh South American supplies hitting the market, and there will be more to come. Argentina announced a new preferential exchange rate called the agrodollar, which aims to boost ag exports. The preferential exchange rate of 300 peso per dollar will run from April 8th through May 31st for soybeans and soy products.
But they have a soy peso deal that probably farmers will sell 8 to 10 million tons. They've only sold 5 million tons to date, and last year by this time they had at least sold 12 million tons.
It doesn't appear the boosted exchange rate applies to corn or wheat sales. U.S. ag exports and imports both dropped in February. The total value of U.S. ag exports in February was at $15.26 billion. That's down around 10% from January, while imports were valued at $15.21 billion, a decline of around 11%. That leaves a trade surplus of just over $49 million. That compares with a deficit in January of $85 million. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association trying to set the record straight regarding false information circulating on social media posts about the use of mRNA vaccines in cattle. The post saying the cattle industry will soon be giving cows mRNA vaccines in an effort to vaccinate humans against COVID-19 by drinking milk or eating beef. NCBA releasing a statement saying, quote, "There are currently no mRNA vaccines licensed for use in beef cattle in the United States. Cattle farmers and ranchers do vaccinate cattle to treat and prevent many diseases, but presently none of these vaccines include mRNA technology," end quote. Experts say regardless of what's in the vaccines given to cattle, they are digested and broken down, so they aren't in the animals for a long time. After an extended holiday weekend, we come back to trade another WASDE report. I'll talk about that with Joe Vaklovic coming up. And later, meteorologist Chuck Heaver continues his special report on his family's hometown of East Palestine, Ohio, the site of that massive trail derailment. Bayer says it plans to invest more than $65 million in one of its corn seed production facilities in Ukraine. It's located in a city that's about 2 hours southwest of Kiev. It says the investment will strengthen its crop science business in the country and help rebuild the economy there. Included are a new seed dryer, ag field equipment, storage facilities, and the construction of 2 bomb shelters to ensure the safety of the Ukrainians who have been operating the facility under very difficult circumstances. Bayer adding that they stand with Ukraine. Joining us this morning, Joe Vaklovic with Standard Grain. We're going into another WASDE report, and let's talk a little bit about how quarterly stocks, which tightened in the last report, get worked into the ending stocks for corn and soybeans coming up.
You're probably going to see reflected in feed demand for corn, maybe residual use in soybeans, should lead to slightly tighter old crop balance sheets. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee, but that's the likely outcome. So on the U.S. balance sheets, we don't get new crop balance sheets from USDA until May. So this April report is kind of a placeholder to some degree. We're still trying to figure out the old crop situation. It's in that May report that you get a look at what they're projecting, at least for the 23-24 marketing year that begins on September 1st for row crops. I think a lot of people will be watching South American production estimates. Argentina's too high, or USDA is too high with its Argentina crop estimates. They've got to come down. It's just by a question of how much. And honestly, I don't know if there's going to be anything surprising there. All the private groups, a lot of them, for the Argentina soybean crop, as an example, 25 million metric tons. That's a number floating around. The trade thinks USDA is going to slow play this thing and go down to 29. So if they come down to 29 or 30, the trade's going to look at it and say, you know what, they're just moving slowly. They're going to eventually make their way down to 25. I find it hard to believe there's going to be like anything really shocking there.
So I got to ask you, Joe, do you think we're under 200 million bushels on this ending stocks number for soybeans?
I think in reality, the market's probably trading that, but I don't know that the USDA has to print that. USDA doesn't like to print things that scare the market, and I think under 200 is kind of a scary prospect, really. That's kind of like a psychological type thing. So I don't know. I mean, you may see it, you may not. I think the market probably is of the opinion that that's the case. You've got the demand to support it. You saw the lighter stocks numbers. I mean, I see no reason why that couldn't be the number that's being traded right now.
Is corn under 1.2 billion?
No.
No?
Well, it depends. So exports have made this phenomenal recovery, right? Because we've seen all this Chinese business. The one question to me would be ethanol. If you look at EIA accumulated data for the marketing, we're not where we should be. The USDA grain crush reports, which is a monthly deal, indicates the same. USDA says year over year we're going to decline 1.5% in terms of corn demand via ethanol. The numbers to this point in the marketing year don't support that.
All right, thanks for joining us as always. Joe Vaclavic, Standard Grain, more AgDay coming up.
AgDay is brought to you by AgDay Farm Country Forecast is brought to you by Calhoun Superstructure, engineered fabric buildings serving the agriculture and fertilizer industries for over 30 years. Visit calhounsuperstructure.com/AG. That's calhounsuperstructure.com/AG.
And meteorologist Andrew Whitmire is joining us this morning with our national weather forecast. And it looks like it's going to be a little bit better for the guys that are planting in the Midwest. We just got to get some rain in the Southwest and it to quit snowing up in the Northern Plains.
We can just get Mother Nature to cooperate with us. That's all we need. It's as simple as that. And as we take a look at the forecast here on this Monday, well, much of the country is going to feature lots of quiet conditions, all thanks to this dominant high pressure system up along the East Coast. And that's going to linger, it looks like, throughout much of this upcoming week. And really, as we go throughout the week, we're going to see the bulk of the moisture centered up across the northwestern Pacific and down across the far, far deep south, right along the Gulf Coast down towards Florida, as we'll continue to see a few pockets of showers. And again, this dominant high pressure system off to our east, as well as a pretty significant ridge that wants to extend pretty much all the way up across the northern prairie up into the southern lower tier of Canada. It's pretty much going to keep at least the eastern half here of the country from the Plain States eastward pretty quiet here as we start to head on into mid-April. There are signs, though, that we'll try to see a little bit of a trough trying to develop again across parts of the northern prairie, and that'll help increase a few shower chances across the Dakotas, upper Midwest, and even up across parts of the inner Mountain West here as we go throughout the end of this week. Check out the jet stream pattern, though, as we extend this all the way through the mid and latter half of this upcoming week. Notice how we get that nice ridge building up across the lower tier of Canada. That's going to allow 70s and even a few 80s to increase northward, even as far north as the Great Lakes. Meanwhile, we're looking at 50s and 60s to potentially increase up across parts of the northern prairie here as we go throughout the next several days. Looking at precipitation here over the next few days here, again, pretty quiet here across the Tennessee, Ohio River Valley, Great Lakes states. We'll have to watch again the states that are hugging right along the Gulf Coast for a few ongoing showers, and of course the Pacific Northwest as well, where we're going to be in and out of showers here as we go throughout the end here of this week. Check out our temperatures for today across the country for this afternoon. As that warmer air builds on in, we're looking at those 60s and 70s spreading their way northward, 50s and cooler right along the Pacific Northwest. That's a look around the country. Let's take a look at your AgDay select cities. Going over to LaGrange, Kentucky, sunny, high 70 degrees. Grand Forks, North Dakota, sunshine and finally warming up 45 degrees. That'll help melt the snowpack up there a little bit. And going over to Washington, off and on showers, high around 50 degrees.
Well, I tell you what, folks, last week was a big week for red tractors. Let's start off last Tuesday on a farm auction in Athens, Wisconsin by my friends at Christensen Sales Corp, where this 1969 International 756 diesel open station, 6,780 hours on it, so for $19,000, second highest auction price I've ever seen on a 756. Now the day before, last Monday, online farm auction in Stronghurst, Illinois by Sullivan Auctioneers, actually 4 record prices on Case IH tractors set. I'll highlight 3 here. The one that popped the most to me was this 1998 Case IH 8940, 2,617 hours on it. Folks, this baby went for $148,000. Previous high auction price I'd ever seen on an 8940 was $97,500. So we're talking over $50K over the record. Wow. Now, same sale, this 2021 Case IH Magnum 340, only 112 hours on it. This thing went for $372,000. Previous high auction price was $302,000, so $70,000 over the record. Also on that same sale was this 09 Magnum 275, 2,142 hours, sold for $179,000, $12,500 over the record. And if we go back a week ago Saturday on a Galion, Ohio farm auction by Jan Lehman, this very sharp 2012 Case IH Magnum 235 with 975 hours on it, sold for $185,000, tied for the highest auction price ever on a Magnum 235.
Thanks, Pete. What's next for the town of East Palestine, Ohio, after that big train derailment? Meteorologist Chuck Heaver returns to his family's hometown to see what residents there would like to see happen in the future. Next.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com. In the Country on AgDay is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
And meteorologist Chuck Heaver is joining us again this morning to wrap up his series of special reports for us on his family's hometown of East Palestine, Ohio, which was the scene of a train derailment that made national headlines. So, Chuck, what's next for the town and the people that live there?
Well, see, that's the key. So yesterday we talked about the people that are actually in the workforce, but I also wanted to talk to the leaders in the town, the people who really were trying to push the town forward. So I talked to Doug, who's on the village council, and I talked with DJ, who's actually a local sports reporter. He has his own company that focuses on local sports and local community events. So take a look.
I've lived here all my life. Growing up here, you don't even notice the trains. But if you sit and watch, a train comes through about every 12 minutes.
Wow.
And this is the main artery between Fort Wayne, Indiana, Chicago area, and Conway, which is a hub, and then it also continues to the East Coast. If the train would have derailed at the main intersection of Market Street down there, it could have had horrible, horrible consequences. Our fire chief had not been here quite 1 year when this happened. He has had experience in emergency situations, so thank God we had him here. He knew how to handle it.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job. The fire department, I can't say enough about them. They saved that end of town, they really did.
Yeah, wow.
This is a nice little community. We've got industry coming in, we've got businesses coming in, but this place, it's different. We have a lot of people coming from Pennsylvania here now to live.
Yeah.
We're an affordable community. We're going to come back. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take time. This is not something that happened overnight. It was over a period of weeks, months. It's going to take us time to get back to where we were.
Yeah.
I think we'll come back stronger and better.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking a lot of other people in town are thinking the same thing.
So this is actually a train coming through.
Yes. By law, they can only go 25.
What do you do in East Palestine? What's your connection here?
So I'm born and raised here.
Wow.
My entire life, just turned 38, served on village council at one point, built a house here after college, brought my family here, and now I own a business. The train derailment, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as, look what happened to us and this is how we're going to suffer, or look at the opportunity that's ahead. When others see challenges, some of the people here in East Palestine see opportunities. You know, I've got 2 kids at home and a wife. I looked at them last night and I realized they're what I'm fighting for. You know, this is home to me. I brought them here, so I have to defend East Palestine. And I'm Team EP, and, you know, I'm going to be the first in line. My hand's going to be on the bottom of that pile. East Palestine is going to be home for me, and no matter where I am in the world, now everybody knows where East Palestine is, and now it's my chance to let people know that we're a city with a big, big future.
Get in there, Cheryl.
Well, I
have 2 kids, so just give me as a mother.
Whether you're new, whether you've been here all your life.
East Palastine's a small village. It's about 45 minutes northwest of Pittsburgh, just across.
Thanks, Chuck. And that's all the time we have for this morning. Thanks for joining us. Have yourself a great day out in farm country.